I watched through the security camera as my twin sister Amara walked into my Seoul penthouse wearing my face, my clothes, and that dangerous smile I knew too well. My husband Junho looked up from his laptop, and what happened next made my blood run cold. He didn't notice. He actually didn't notice that his wife of 3 years had been replaced by a woman who'd spent the last decade in military special operations across 3 continents. But I noticed everything, especially when Amara leaned against the doorframe and said in perfect Korean, "Hello, husband. Miss me?" The way Junho's face changed told me everything I needed to know. He'd been waiting for someone weaker to come home. He had no idea what was about to hit him. Hey, before I continue, hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to get absolutely insane. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I want to know who's up at 3 a.m. for this drama. Now, let's get back to how my sister destroyed my cheating husband. 3 weeks earlier, I was Nala Kim, a successful art curator in Seoul, married to one of Korea's rising tech entrepreneurs. Life looked perfect from the outside, but perfection, I'd learned, was just another word for blind. It started when I found the hotel receipt. Not even hidden, just carelessly left in his jacket pocket like I didn't matter enough to hide it from. Grand Hyatt, presidential suite, the same night he told me he was working late at the office. I sat on our bed, that stupid receipt trembling in my hands, and did something I hadn't done since we were teenagers. I called Amara. Nala, her voice crackled through the phone from wherever she was stationed. She could never tell me exactly where. It's 4 a.m. here. Someone better be dying. It's my marriage, I whispered. I think Junho is cheating. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, I'm coming to Seoul. Amara, you can't just leave your post. Watch me. That was my sister. While I'd moved to Seoul at 22, fallen in love with Korea's art scene, married Junho, and built a quiet life, Amara had joined the military at 18. She'd served in Nigeria, South Korea, Germany, and places she couldn't name. We were identical twins, same deep brown skin, same dark eyes, same face that our Nigerian mother and Korean father had gifted us, but we'd become completely different people. Or so I thought. 5 days later, Amara stood in my apartment, looking like she'd walked through fire to get there. Probably she had. "Tell me everything," she commanded, and for the first time in months I broke down. The late nights, the sudden business trips, the way Junho flinched when I touched him, the perfume on his clothes that wasn't mine, and worst of all, the way he'd started looking at me, or rather, through me, like I was furniture he'd grown tired of. "He's changed our entire investment portfolio," I said, pulling up documents on my laptop. "Moved assets into accounts I don't have access to. He's been talking to divorce lawyers. I found the consultation confirmation in his email. He's planning something, Amara. Something that's going to leave me with nothing." Amara studied the documents with the same focus she probably used to analyze enemy positions. "Your prenup." Ironclad, his family's lawyer made sure of it. If we divorce for any reason other than infidelity, I leave with almost nothing. Just a small settlement. The gallery I've been building, the apartment, the investments, all his. And if you can prove infidelity, then I get 50% of everything, plus the gallery stays mine. Amara's smile was sharp as a knife. "Then we prove it." "I've tried. He's careful, too careful." "That's because he's being careful around asterisk, you asterisk." Amara leaned back, and I recognized that look. It was the same expression she'd had when we were 10 and she'd decided to switch places so she could take my math test. What if he wasn't around you? What if he was around someone he thought he could manipulate? Someone who looked exactly like you but seemed weaker, more confused, more distracted. Amara, no. Amara, yes. She grabbed my hands. "Listen to me. I have 3 weeks of leave, 3 weeks to be you, to live your life, to watch your husband. Men like him, men who think they're so smart, so careful, they get sloppy when they think they're winning. Let me be you, Nala. Let me walk around in your life while you watch from somewhere safe. I guarantee you he'll slip up." "That's insane." "That's strategy." Amara's eyes glinted. "I've run more complex operations than this. Trust me. I'll be the perfect, confused, distracted wife, and you'll be somewhere with cameras, watching everything, documenting it all. When he makes his move, and we'll have everything we need." I wanted to say no. This was my life, my marriage, my problem to solve. But I was so tired. Tired of being careful, of pretending I didn't notice, of playing the perfect wife while my husband plotted my destruction. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's switch." The preparation took 2 days. Amara studied my routines, my speech patterns, my relationships. She learned the names of everyone at my gallery, memorized my calendar, practiced my softer way of speaking. I showed her Junho's habits, his tells, his patterns. "He touches his left cuff when he lies," I told her. "And he always checks his phone at 10 p.m. and 2 p.m. That's when he messages her, whoever she is." "Not for long," Amara promised. On Monday morning, I moved into a service apartment 3 blocks away, close enough to return quickly if needed, far enough that Junho would never accidentally see me. Amara had installed cameras throughout the apartment before Junho returned from his weekend golf trip. Living room, kitchen, home office, even the bedroom. Everything recorded, everything saved to a cloud server only I could access. Then Amara became me. I watched on my laptop as she moved through my life. At first, she played it perfectly, the loving wife, maybe a little more distracted than usual, a little more forgetful. She accidentally left her phone unlocked. She went to bed earlier, giving Junho more private time. She created opportunities. And Junho took them. Day 3, I watched him wait until Amara went to bed, then spend 2 hours on his phone, smiling at the screen in a way he hadn't smiled at me in over a year. Day 5, he told Amara he had to work late. The cameras caught him showering, putting on cologne, changing clothes twice. Day 7, he came home at 3 a.m., and I watched him slip into bed beside my sister like nothing was wrong. But it was day 9 when everything changed. I was watching the living room camera when Junho's phone rang. He glanced toward the bedroom where he thought I was sleeping, then answered. "Yes, Mrs. Park, the papers are ready. Once I file, the process will take about 3 months. No, she has no idea. She trusts me completely. Yes, I've moved everything. She'll get the minimal settlement from the prenup, nothing more, of course. Once this is finalized, we can announce our engagement properly." Mrs. Park, the widow of his former business partner, the woman I'd invited to our home for dinner, the woman who'd held my hand and called me such a sweet girl. I watched Junho smile, and something in me shattered and reformed, harder than before. He continued, "The best part? She's so focused on her little gallery she hasn't noticed anything. Sometimes I think she loves her art more than she ever loved me, makes this easier. No guilt at all. She was always too naive for this world, too soft." Through the camera, I saw Amara emerge from the bedroom, silent as a shadow. Junho didn't notice her standing in the hallway, didn't see her recording everything on my phone. But I did. And I smiled. Amara didn't reveal herself that night. That wasn't the plan. Instead, she slipped back into the bedroom like a ghost, and the next morning she played the perfect oblivious wife. But I saw the change in her eyes through the camera. This wasn't just strategy anymore. This was personal. "He called you soft," she texted me later that morning. "He has no idea what's coming." The cameras caught everything over the next few days. Junho meeting with lawyers, transferring more assets, texting Mrs. Park with increasing boldness. He was planning to file for divorce the day after my gallery's biggest exhibition, the one I'd been planning for 8 months. He wanted to destroy me professionally and personally in one move. "He wants you devastated and distracted," Amara said when she snuck out to meet me on day 12. "Unable to fight back legally. By the time you recovered, everything would be settled." "So what do we do?" Amara's smile could have cut diamonds. "We let him think he's one, then we strike." Day 14, Amara did something that made my heart stop. She came home from the gallery and told Junho she was exhausted, stressed, thinking about taking a break from work. "Maybe you're right," she said, and I watched my husband's eyes light up through the camera. Maybe I've been too focused on the gallery. Maybe I should focus more on us. That's wonderful, darling, Junho said, and the way he touched his left cuff told me he was already calculating how much easier it would be to take the gallery if I'd voluntarily stepped back. That night, while Junho slept, Amara downloaded everything from his laptop. Every email, every document, every text message. The affair with Mrs. Park had started 6 months before their business partner, her husband, had died in a convenient car accident that police had ruled as mechanical failure. Nala, Amara's voice was tight when she called me at 2 a.m. I think they killed him. The room spun. What? Mr. Park's accident. Look at these messages. She sent me screenshots. Junho and Mrs. Park discussing removing obstacles, transferring insurance policies, messages sent just hours before Mr. Park's death. After tonight, we'll be free. Oh my God. There's more. Junho has been embezzling from his company. Mrs. Park has been helping him hide it in offshore accounts. They're planning to drain everything and disappear to Singapore after your divorce. They were going to frame the embezzlement on you somehow, make it look like you had access to accounts you never knew existed. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just infidelity. This was criminal conspiracy, possible murder, and a plot to destroy my entire life. What do we do? I whispered. We get justice. Amara's voice was steel. But first, we need them to confess everything on camera, and I know exactly how to make that happen. Day 16, Amara began acting strange, forgetting things, leaving rooms confused, looking at Junho with suspicion, then shaking it off. She was playing the role of a woman starting to suspect but too scared to confront it. I watched Junho watch her, saw him exchange texts with Mrs. Park. She's getting suspicious. We need to move faster. Mrs. Park's response, not yet. Wait until after the exhibition. If we move now, she might fight. Let her put all her energy into the show, then strike when she's exhausted and vulnerable. They were circling like sharks, and they thought Amara was wounded prey. Day 18, Amara invited Mrs. Park to lunch. I watched through the camera in my purse. Amara had taken it with her, positioned perfectly to catch everything. I need to ask you something, Amara said, playing my role with perfect vulnerability. As a friend, as someone who's been married longer than me, do you think Junho might be unhappy? Mrs. Park's face showed false concern. Oh, sweetie, why would you think that? He's been distant, working late. Sometimes I feel like he looks at me and sees someone he wants to escape from. Amara's voice broke perfectly. I don't know what I'd do if I lost him. The gallery, the life we built, none of it means anything without him. I watched Mrs. Park's eyes gleam with barely concealed satisfaction. Marriage is hard, Nala. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes. The kindest thing is to let go. Never, Amara said fiercely. I'd give up everything before I'd lose him. The gallery, my career, everything. He's my whole world. The lie was perfect bait, and Mrs. Park swallowed it whole. That night I listened to Mrs. Park tell Junho, she's completely dependent on you emotionally. When you file, she'll fall apart. She won't fight, she'll just break. This is going to be easier than we thought. Day 20, Amara made her final move. She came home early and accidentally found divorce papers in Junho's briefcase. I watched through the camera as she confronted him, tears streaming down her face, tears I knew were calculated for maximum effect. How could you? She sobbed. After everything, how could you? Junho's face showed irritation, not guilt. Nala, you're being dramatic. I gave you everything. My trust, my love, my life. You gave me boring dinner conversation and a hobby you called a career, he snapped, and there it was, the truth he'd been hiding. You're exactly what your name means, gift, except you turned out to be a disappointing one. Mrs. Park understands ambition. She understands power. You understand finger paintings and wine tastings. Amara's tears stopped instantly. Her entire posture changed. I watched my husband's face go from angry to confused to afraid in 3 seconds. Wrong sister, asshole, Amara said in her military voice, clipped, controlled, deadly. Junho stepped back. What? I'm not Nala. I'm Amara. And you've spent the last 20 days confessing everything to hidden cameras while I documented your affair, your embezzlement, and your conspiracy to commit fraud. Possibly murder. The color drained from Junho's face. That's impossible. You're my wife. I know my wife. You don't know anything, Amara smiled. Including that your actual wife has been watching every moment, recording every conversation, building an airtight case against you. Including the fact that we already sent everything to the police, the corporate fraud division, and Mr. Park's family lawyer. You're bluffing. Am I? Amara pulled out her phone. Hey Nala, want to come home now? I was already in the elevator. When I walked into my apartment 30 seconds later, Junho looked like he'd seen a ghost. He spun between me and Amara, his brain trying to process two identical faces, trying to figure out when the switch had happened. Hello, husband, I said coldly. Did you miss me, the real me? He lunged for his phone. Amara was faster, catching his wrist with a combat move that had him on his knees in seconds. Don't bother calling Mrs. Park, I said. She's currently being arrested. Turns out, when you present evidence of insurance fraud and potential conspiracy to commit murder, police move quite fast. Especially when the victim's family has money and wants answers. You can't prove anything, Junho gasped. I pulled out my tablet, played back his conversation about the divorce, about calling me soft, about the embezzlement, about Singapore. His own voice filled the apartment, damning and clear. 20 days of footage, I said. Every conversation, every confession, every plan. You wanted to destroy me quietly. Congratulations. You destroyed yourself spectacularly. The police arrived 10 minutes later. As they handcuffed Junho, he looked at me with something like disbelief. You were always so weak, so trusting. I was, I agreed, but she wasn't. I nodded toward Amara, and you were too arrogant to tell the difference. The divorce took 3 months, but with evidence of infidelity and criminal conspiracy, the prenup was void. I got everything. The apartment, the gallery, 70% of the assets he hadn't already hidden. The offshore accounts were frozen, recovered, and split in the settlement. Mrs. Park was charged with insurance fraud and conspiracy. Junho faced embezzlement charges and was being investigated for Mr. Park's death. His company collapsed. His reputation was destroyed. 6 months later, I stood in my gallery, truly mine now, at the opening of a new exhibition. Duality, I'd called it. Photographs of Amara and me, exploring identity, strength, and the power of women who refuse to be underestimated. Amara stood beside me in her dress uniform, visiting before her next deployment. Thank you, I said quietly, for being my strength when I couldn't find my own. You always had it, she replied. You just needed permission to use it. That's the difference between us. I learned to fight first and trust later. You learned to trust first. Neither way is wrong. But together, she grinned, we're unstoppable. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. Junho sentenced to 8 years. Mrs. Park to 12. Justice served. I showed Amara. She raised her champagne glass. To karma. To karma, I echoed. And to sisters who swap places and change everything. He called you soft, Amara said thoughtfully. But softness isn't weakness. It's just strength that hasn't been tested yet. And when you tested it, she smiled, you became steel. I looked around my gallery, at my life rebuilt, at my future wide open. Junho had wanted to break me, to leave me with nothing. Instead, he'd given me everything. Proof of who truly had my back, clarity about what I deserved, and the strength to claim it. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are. And sometimes, the best revenge is becoming who you were always meant to be.